Good morning all. I hope you're all having a half decent start to the week. Right, what has Gary got for you today? Right, got a new tool. For those of you who watched a few of my videos, you know I've been doing a little bit of trimming of my trees. Now initially I bought this little handsaw, 7-inch blade. Knowing I'd be up in the tree, I thought like it's going to be too awkward holding a bow saw with how tight a lot of the branches are together. So this little cheap and cheerful handsaw cost £7. It cut quite well actually when I first started using it, but being cheap, what initially happened was you've got this bolt that goes through there that kind of holds the blade in place. I cut literally 2 or 3 branches and then noticed the blade suddenly was very loose, and that was down to the fact that the nut was missing off there. Now I'd only been cutting in one area. I had a good look around the floor and for the life of me I couldn't see that nut. So I don't even know whether it was originally there or not, or whether that's been a little mess up at the factory and it's not been put on. But that was the first problem. The second problem, you'll see a little black pin there which is kind of holding all this switching unit together. Now probably due to the fact that this was loose and the blade was moving a lot more as you're cutting, that little pin starts working its way out, so every now and again you got to stop and force that in. That's a tight fit, so you have to kind of put that in. So the blade now is loose, mainly down to that bolt being missing. So I decided I'd spend a bit more money and actually go for the top brand. This one is the Silky F180. Just a second. These Silky saws, from what I've been reading up on, these appear to be actually considered to probably be the best hand saws in the world, and the brand that most professional tree surgeons and arborists use. Now the difference between these two tools, everybody knows when you pick up a cheap tool or you pick up a good quality one, you instantly know just by the quality of the material and how well it feels. Well, the cheaper one does feel like a £7 saw. Cheap plastic, this I'm not sure what type of plastic this is, but this feels really rugged, like this could take a lot of stick. And it has a nice rubber texture handle, which is gum rubber. Not sure what that is exactly, but they do state what type of rubber it is. The saw feels very, very comfortable. Snaps into place very firmly. And this particular saw actually has 2 locking positions. That would be a sort of standard, or it will lock up at that sort of angle, which I suppose might help when you're in awkward places. You may be trying to get a high one, a little bit sticking your hand through some of the branches and getting some little ones up high. The thing I think it does work well for, which might be its main purpose, when you're cutting heavy branches, as anyone will know who's done it, it's best to do an undercut on the branch. Otherwise, when you're cutting down through the branch, when you get to about the halfway mark, the weight of the branch will actually start to snap and tear the bark, which can be bad for the tree. Basically, if you tear the bark down onto the main stem of the tree, that can actually leave areas for infections to sort of start to grow on the tree. So in the normal position, you know, the blade is sort of pointing up the way, so that would be a little bit awkward to do an undercut. Whereas you snap it in that second position, that then does level the blade out perfectly. So I've got a feeling that's probably the main reason for it. So the quality of this compared to the other one, it just feels like this is a tool that's made to last. The blades, you can buy replacement blades for them. The saw itself, off that very well known internet site that we all know, was £20 including the postage costs. Replacement blades you can get for £10 on the same site. The main difference on the cutting blade on the cheapo saws, I've done a fair bit of cutting from this one already, as you can see. These basic blades, what it is basically is just the tip of the blade is sharp, that's your cutting edge. But on these Silky saws, I don't know if this will show up too well on the camera, you'll actually see there's actually an angle cut into the side of the blades, and that's actually the cutting edge. This is said to give a very smooth cutting action. I've not tried the saw yet, but it's supposed to be a much smoother action than using a standard type of blade. The tips are pulse hardened, not quite sure what that means, but basically they're very tough, fair teeth and should last a good length of time. The blades are treated so that they've got a good resistance to rusting. So it seems very good quality, and for £20, even if it's a tool you're not going to use loads, I think for £20 that's worth having. I mean, my main thing I think of when I'm buying a new tool is, as to how much money I'm going to spend on it, is how often do I think I'm going to use this tool. Now, if it's something you think you're going to use once in a blue moon, there's obviously very little point in spending a large amount of money. But this one, even for someone who's not using it loads, if you want a handsaw that's going to last, then for £20 I think that's worth spending that extra £12 or £13 to get in one of these bog standard cheaper ones. Just wait for a second. Both saws have advertised as having 7-inch blades. Fumbling about here. So they are approximately 7. The actual Silky saw is actually probably the cutting teeth are about 7 inches, but the blade in total is probably just under 8 inches. So you got a little bit more kind of purchase when you're on branches and what have you. You're not going to pull off quite so easy with a smaller blade. I'll just show you a few of the other ones that Silky do. This isn't their full list of blades, but you got like your folding one at the top. They do, I think I've seen at least about 4 or 5 different folding saws. They do various lengths and what have you. As I say, these seem to be the brands that the arborists use, so you can actually get your folding saws, or you can have these sort of type, which are fixed blade swords. This is a full length steel blade, and then the rubber handle put on the top, so it's not like 2 parts that are going to loosen off after a while. And for the arborists, you've got the sheath that you would have strapped to your legs, so you could be working away in the tree, and then when you need your handsaw you can just whip that out of the sheath and you're good to go. Lots of videos on YouTube if you want to have a bit more look up on these. I probably will do a little clip of me cutting a little couple of branches just to compare the two, but from everything I've read I'm fully expecting this Silky to work really well. Right, I think that's everything for now. I'll probably pop in the garden, find a little branch of tree that I can have a quick snip on and sort of just see how well it does cut. So everybody seems to say they are excellent, really smooth action. So I shall go and find out. Bye for now. And everyone, as promised, I'd have a little go at cutting with the new blade, so we shall start off with the cheap and cheerful £7. This is quite softwood by the looks of it, dead branch, so should cut reasonably easy. So let's have a go with a cheap blade first, see how it handles it. This is probably about 2.5 centimetres, 3 centimetres maximum. Right, that's gone through there pretty well. And remember, this blade has done quite a bit of work so far, cut quite a few branches, probably not quite as thick as this, but this does have some wear and tear on it, so give some allowance for that, but that went quite easy. I say this is definitely a softwood, this one. Right, let's try the more expensive Silky. That really has chewed through that with no effort whatsoever. You could really feel that biting in, especially on the backward stroke. And does seem to give a nice, smoother, cleaner cut. So yeah, definitely going with the Silky on that one. Now this is definitely a much tougher wood. This is out on my back garden, one of the trees where I've done. This was only recently cut, so it's not rotting away yet. And you can just feel by this is definitely a much harder wood, this one. I could see the cheap saw may be struggling a little bit on this one. So let's give it a whirl and see. Definitely much harder, this wood. Well, and there is that problem with the bolt I was talking about. The blade's just actually come out. So, that's the downside to the cheaper stuff. They tend not to last. So we can just get that back in the hole. This one will be going in the bin now that I've got the new saw. I'll say this problem with the nut going missing happened pretty well first time I used it. So I'm not sure whether that nut was actually ever on there or somehow it got out of the factory without it. And the little pin I was telling you about, that's just completely fallen out. That's what holds this switch mechanism together. Well, that's probably going to be a faff to get that back in, so we'll give up on that one. But I can tell you from that little go at that's probably halfway through. That was definitely struggling on that. I was having to put a lot of effort into that. So let's see how this one fares against the tougher wood. That went through that really well. Stuck a couple of times, but that's just obviously digging in a little bit. That would have done that in an absolute fraction of the time I would have done that. I reckon I could have cut this 4 or 5 times with this Silky saw to how long that one was going to take. I don't know if that will show up on the camera, but that really is a lovely smooth cut, which would be ideal if you were pruning your trees when you want to get your branches trimmed off with a nice close cut to the main trunk, nice and clean. That really is, can't believe how smooth that is, which is one of the things these saws are known for, giving such a good cut. You really can feel that digging in. Seems to cut stronger on the back cut than it does on the forward cut. I know a lot of their bigger saws, they actually do only cut on the backstroke. I'm not quite sure what the reason for that is. Maybe it's just a bit more control over it when you're pulling the blade towards you rather than pushing hard. If you imagine these are used for a lot of people cutting trees, that's possibly the reason. But that really is, I can't believe how smooth that is. So this is a really good blade, and they are supposed to last a long time. Obviously time will tell on that one, and the good point is £10 for a replacement blade, so that's not a great deal. So there's a world of difference between these two, an absolute world of difference. So I think if you're after a decent pruning saw for £20, money well spent. I think you just look at this blade, you can just tell how much better quality this is compared to the cheap one. And as I said on the earlier clip when I'd done there, these are actually made in Japan, so possibly not surprising, the Japan with their history of the samurai swords and all that sort of stuff. Maybe not surprising they know how to put a very good blade together. So from that little sample of this, guys, I would very strongly recommend this from that little sample, and it really does feel like this would last a long time. You can tell it's made to last, whereas that one you very clearly see is cheap and cheerful, throw it in the bin. So guys, Silky F180, very good. They do a real large amount of different blades, from small foldable blades to your fixed blades, going up, I think I've seen somewhere up to as far as about 12-14 inches, depending what you've got in mind. And I have seen on some of the clips on YouTube them cutting through branches 2-3 times the size of this with something like this, and it does it. So I think that's one I would give a very big thumbs up, everyone. So hope this is some use to somebody. Catch you all again sometime. Bye for now.